Welcome, everyone, to a special Tuesday night episode of the Signals from Mars live stream brought to you by the Mars Attacks podcast. Our guest, Lucas Kanopa, has not shown up as of yet. I'm hoping he will be showing up shortly. Want to say hello to Rob Rowe, who is out there tonight in Missouri, not in not in North Carolina, where I said the last time. I don't know why I said North Carolina. I don't know why I had that in my head. But anyway, um, what we are gonna do here is wait to see if Lucas connects. I had the live stream ready to go, so I figured that I should just go with it anyway. I spoke to Lucas about a year ago, so it's kind of the yearly checkup, I guess. I had Eric from Void Vator on a few weeks ago. Eric has been with me throughout the years. If you guys are part of Patreon, that is Steve Hoker, Brad Dahl, Mark Striegel, Gabriel Ruiz, Jeremy Weltman, and Mike Jones. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Anyway, if you guys are not part of Patreon, those are my patrons that I just rattled off there. If you are not on Patreon, you missed out on. We had a celebration of of Eric Kluber's work. So we went through Void Vader, we went through Iron Knot, Gypsy Hawk, White Wizard, Overloaded, and I don't think I'm missing anything. Didn't have any of the. I believe he also played with the drummer from Vixen on one of her solo albums, like way back when. So that I don't have, but I believe he was part of that. But working on some interesting things these next few weeks. Hopefully, you guys are. Lucas is telling me that he's in. Let's see. Well, let's see. I don't see him in here. Interesting. Just make sure that we have the right link. I came in to restream a different way today. Let's just compare the links here. Exciting for those of you that are joining us or watching this back. Let's see. Let me compare. Let's see. Try this link. Yeah, you gotta love Restream, which is the service that I use. They've been changing their stuff up. The intro that we have, the countdown, the music just does not play right at the moment. It didn't play right. They fixed it, then it stopped working, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. I'm going to give them a good old thumbs down afterwards to see if they can look into what's taking place. There's Lucas. Hey, Lucas, how you doing? Oh, can't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you. Now I can hear you. All right, cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Welcome back, sir. It's been about a year. I was looking at the last time you were on, and I think it was April of last year. So this is the yearly checkup. This is like going to the dentist or something.
Which reminds me, I should probably go to the dentist. It's been over a year.
There you go. Now you know every time you check in with me, you have to go get the chompers looked at.
I'm going to set an appointment for later.
There you go. So how is everything? Excited for the release of the new album?
Absolutely. I can't wait for this to be released, honestly. We wrote this album at the end of, the second half of 2019. And I remember when we were writing it and doing the demos, we were all like, damn, this is good. I want to release this now. And here we are, a year and a half later.
Right.
And it's now being released. So definitely, I'm excited for people to hear it because it's a little bit different from the previous albums.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more metal, a little bit more shredding. The production is, as good as it gets, and
Right.
I don't know. It's like the stars aligned for this album to be really, really good. No fillers. It's not that we ever had fillers, I don't think, but you know what I mean. It's
Right.
I'm really proud of it, and I think people are really going to dig it.
Right. And you're explaining that the album is heavier. It wasn't that way by design, was it? It just kind of came out that way?
Yeah. I think from touring as much as we do, I'm always, whenever I play a song, you read the crowd and you can see the reactions you're getting, and I guess naturally, based on that, I gravitated a little bit more toward writing heavy riffs because I don't know, it's just based on the audience reaction and what they like, what they don't like, what they react to, and yeah, I mean, it's not like it wasn't premeditated. Like I said, oh, I'm gonna write a heavier album. This is gonna be the most brutal album ever. No. It was not like that. It was just, it kind of happened, and it's not brutal. We're not an extreme metal band at all.
Right.
I feel like Stranded is a little grungier. It's more on the punk rock side, even though it has a little bit of metal, and then this one's more on the metal side.
Right. As far as, because you're the main songwriter in the band, was there anything that you consciously wanted to do differently this time around? I mean, that just sort of came about, but was there something that you felt that maybe in the past you hadn't done that, Great Fear Rising needed to have you do this one specific thing?
Nothing, no one specific thing, but a few things that I wanted to do. I wanted to have a little bit more freedom with song structures. Have longer songs, stuff like that, with different parts. I wanted the vocals to be more intense.
Okay.
I wanted that. I wanted to showcase the guitar playing a little more and what we can do, because we can really shred, Eric and I.
Right.
And for whatever reason on our previous albums, like, even though we do have solos and stuff like that, it was not the main focus. Not that it is on this one, but when there's a solo, we're not holding back at all. It's like, okay, right, here we go,
Was there anything, for example, that you heard Eric do that maybe kicked you in the ass and said, whoa, I need to up my game and kind of match that?
Always. I think Eric and I, that's kind of how we operate, you know what I mean? In the sense that, we play together so much, and there's always something that he would do that I'm like, ooh, look at what he did there. I wouldn't have done that, and that was cool. And then I kind of incorporate that into my playing, and I know that he does that too with my playing. Kind of like a healthy, competitive mindset, we're in the same band, we're on the same team, but
Sure.
I feel like we learn from each other. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that he mentioned in the interview that I did with him a few weeks ago was how each individual member of the band really has different influences. The last time we spoke, you talked about a lot how Nirvana kind of got you started, and Metallica really like influenced you quite a bit. What sort of influences do you see from the other players that maybe you weren't familiar with before, but you've come to appreciate as a result?
Influences. I'm not sure. I'll tell you. Sam, for example, he's a huge Thin Lizzy fan, and before I met him, Thin Lizzy was one of those bands that I liked, but I wasn't like, oh my god, they're so great. Like, I never paid much attention to it, but he was so into it, and also our drummer Joey, that I'm like, okay, there's got to be something here that I'm missing, even though I like them.
Mhm.
I'm like, these guys are like super passionate about this band, so I started getting into it, and now I understand.
And that's interesting because, again, with you guys being a two guitar band, they laid so much groundwork down for so many bands that came after them.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of talk that like bands like Priest and Maiden were heavily influenced with the like dueling guitars and things that Thin Lizzy were doing. Not that they were the first band to do it, but they probably took it to another level where bands before them really had.
The way that the metal bands kind of took from that, and it's interesting because when I think of harmonized leads, well, I do think of Priest, I think of Maiden. That's where I from, even Metallica too. But those guys took it from Thin Lizzy and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are now down to. Well, not down. You guys are 3 members now officially, and with the drummer spot, you have someone filling in currently because of the situation with Herman, which you kind of insinuated a while back, but Eric kind of gave us a definitive answer on what was going on with that. Do you envision a time where Herman could come back in the future, or are you guys just going to move forward with the current setup?
If Herman were to come back, it's not going to happen for a long time. Well, I don't think Herman is going to be moving back to the United States at any point, anytime soon, at least. I mean, he's in England and he's doing well, so he's not coming back. So maybe in the future it could happen, but in the distant future, not anytime soon. That's for sure. Joey DiBiase played drums on this album, and he toured with us. But he lives on the East Coast, so it's a little bit dysfunctional in that sense. But it's fine. We've been able to make it work. But yes, and all of this happened in the middle of a pandemic, so it's kind of difficult to like know what to do because everything is so strange,
Yeah, I mean, not to play up the pandemic in any way, but maybe a silver lining there is that it kind of helped you work this situation out where it wasn't as critical as if you guys had, several tours booked and you had to work something out more long term.
Yeah. Well, as far as touring is concerned, flying Joey from the East Coast to LA to rehearse something, tour's not a big deal. Like we've done it, we can do that. It's more about the writing and being here and playing together and all that stuff that's missing,
Right.
That's kind of where we want to be.
Right. Okay. As far as post-pandemic, I mean, do you guys have a schedule already figured out? Do you have any sort of touring semi lined up? Do you have any ideas of what you guys want to do when it's safe to come out and play, let's say?
Well, we are working on a tour for late July, early August.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's post-pandemic or it might be right in the middle of it. I don't know, but it's safe enough, We've been going out playing Arizona, and we have a show here in Santa Ana, Orange County, on May 1st. Yeah, I mean, if it's up to us, we'll be touring right now. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. It's fine. We're Alaska. And talk to people from 6 feet apart, I guess. I don't know. But we do have a tour scheduled for July. And the idea is to play and tour as much as we can to support this album that we just released,
Right.
And also, honestly, we still need to kind of support Stranded because we released it in November.
Right.
I think we did one tour. We did one small tour with Slaufeg, and then we had a few shows, and then I think we played with Haunt. We did like a little 3 shows with Haunt.
Right.
And then we were in the middle of a tour in April, and that's when the pandemic hit. So we didn't even tour that much in support of Stranded.
Right.
So we have to tour more.
It's like a double coming out party, in other words.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've had people that I've interviewed that have told me that and I've read plenty of quote unquote big bands say that they've had albums recorded for over a year and they want to wait to release them. And then I've had other bands tell me that, they write so much that if they held it in, they would end up hating the material because they need to just get it out, because by the time, everything was quote unquote okay, they would probably have another album ready to go. So was there at any point in time where, Stranded came to mind and you guys said, well, maybe we should wait until we tour that to put Great Fear Rising out? Or
no, because a lot of songs on Stranded are pretty old. And you got to remember that we released Stranded independently on March of 2018 or 2019. No, 2019, I'm sorry. And then Ripple picked it up. We added 2 songs and we re-released it through Ripple. So some of those songs are pretty old already. So,
right.
we were ready at that point for a new release for sure.
Okay. And with Ripple as well, you guys were kind of signed to them before a lot of I guess the biggest thing to come out was that Blasco's been picked up to do A&R. He's obviously been managing a lot of bands over the years. He's also obviously been playing with Ozzy for, I think it's like 10 years at this point. Yeah. How big of a deal is it for you guys to be on a label that really seems to be picking up steam?
It makes sense to me. One of the reason why it makes sense to me is because I wanted to be signed by Ripple years ago, because one of the things that I was telling the guys, when we tour, we listen to a lot of music in the van, and whenever we heard a band and I went, oh, this is cool. Who are they? Oh, this band from Ripple. Oh, okay. This band from Ripple. Oh, look at Ripple. They have a good ear. They obviously have good taste. They're putting out good music. So, and I didn't even know at that point how popular they were or how much money they had, how much clout. And I didn't care, because you can have all the money in the world and all the clout and put out crap. You know what I mean? But I was very interested. I was like, okay, these guys are obviously onto something. So I was very interested in that label from the get-go. So I'm not surprised, that you reap what you saw, and you do things for the right reasons, and then the results will come when they shall.
How do you feel that you fit in with their roster? Do you feel that you add a different ingredient than, say, some of the other bands that they currently have?
And that's why you're bringing it up too, because you can tell that we don't fit in 100%. But I think that's why they like us too, because you're a label. I guess you don't want to be you don't want people to think, oh, this is the label that puts out a very niche, specific type of
Right.
music. They just want to put out good music.
Which is what a lot of labels unfortunately have become. If they put out, a stoner band, they put out 40 stoner bands that all sound alike. And last Friday, my guest was Andrew from Metal Assault, and that was one of the things that we were talking about was how, with his label, he's trying to make sure that every band is completely different from one another for a bunch of different reasons. So it would make sense that, Ripple would want to sign you guys who, again, don't sound like any of the other bands, and kind of it's, giving people different things to sample on the plate, and if they ever decide to put a tour together with their bands, well, you're not going to have a problem with people getting tired of, just another band that sounds like another band.
Well, and I don't think that all Ripple bands sound the same at all. I mean,
No.
but I understand that you're saying like stoner rock, that kind of style, or like Sabbath worshiping bands. But that's kind of like a very broad term. Like when you say stoner,
right? I mean, no, it can be a lot of things.
They can be so different. But yeah, I guess you could categorize a lot of the bands as stoner rock, even though sometimes they sound more like heavy metal to me, or straight up rock and roll.
Right. Well, I mean, what I'm trying to get at it. I mean, maybe I use the wrong analogy. But,
I understand that.
Yeah, you have labels that are just death metal, just metal, just labels that are black metal. Just they just focus on one thing, and then I think that's kind of shooting yourself in the foot. If you look historically back at successful labels, none of their bands sounded alike. You could definitely tell who each one of them was, and I think to a credit of what Ripple is trying to do, is that they're trying to offer people more than just more of the same. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, absolutely, and I think signing us was actually a conscious effort to go in that direction.
Sure.
I don't know for a fact. I think.
Cool. As far as playing, the few shows that you guys have played, how surreal has that been, trying to conform to certain rules and having maybe, if the crowds weren't the same, do you feel that the crowds were hungrier to see you guys?
Definitely. At the same time, because of restrictions as far as like how the venues need to operate, it was a little strange because people are not supposed to stand up, so they're supposed to be sitting down at a heavy metal show, and it feels a little strange. So, but it was okay. Like it felt great to play live again. That's for sure.
Right.
I didn't care that people were sitting down. I'm like, I'm out of the house.
Right. Well, that's funny because here in Spain, no shows tend to have seating. If you go even to, I don't know, if you go to like an arena, the floor is all empty, and then the seats are up, in the stands where they would be for any sporting event. Right. So it's interesting now they have the same kind of thing going, and I saw that for a show, and somebody was complaining, oh, they made us all sit down and whatnot, and I'm thinking, well, a lot of shows that I've been to in the States, a lot of bigger shows, it's all seated. So, I mean, to me, it didn't seem like that big of a deal. But here, where that's almost never the case, people felt so like out of like a fish out of water.
Interesting. It's like a cultural difference, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we kind of talked about that the last time that we spoke, kind of some of the differences between being, growing up, you grew up in Uruguay as opposed to being in California. I mean, there are definitely things that I'm sure that you've picked up over the years, just seeing, shows or just seeing, how bands maybe interact with one another. I spoke, again, another thing that I spoke to Andrew about was there's a big deal made out of, how fans are in South America as opposed to like the US. But maybe fans like say in LA, even now that there's a reduced number of everything, there's still a lot of stuff going on. Whereas in other countries, growing up in Uruguay, every how many years did you get to see a big show? So that's kind of the reason why you'd have, the big stadiums filled out, and it's also a reason, it's another good way of bands also, over the last few years. How many bands have you seen put out DVDs and stuff from South America just because that additional reaction is so different to what it's like?
Because they never go there. So when they go, people are like,
Yeah.
this is the only chance I get to see this band in my lifetime. Seriously.
Right.
And then you better go, to
Right.
where, like, if you compare it to Los Angeles, you can catch it next week or next tour, like if I want to see, I don't know, like whatever band, I don't know, Megadeth, I'd be like, all right, I'm tired tonight. I'll catch them next tour,
Right.
And that's literally, you can do that, but in South America, it's like, well, better go now. Well, not Megadeth specifically because they do play in South America a lot, but
But even still, they're playing like once every 3-4 years, and they're rotating countries. So it's not the same as Megadeth might play LA 2 or 3 times a year. So depending on the tour package that they're a part of.
Right.
So I think maybe it's funny, and this happened to me. I mean, I grew up in the New York area, so you take that for granted, doing exactly what you said. Yeah, I'll go next time, because you think that there'll always be a next time, whereas
you get spoiled.
You get spoiled, and there's a reason why there's 80,000 people in a place that sees.
You know what I learned? You know what I learned? Then people die, and then you don't get to see him. Like I did that with Dick Dale. I'm like,
right.
Love Dick Dale, but I'm not feeling it. 2 months later, dead.
Right.
Oh, I guess you don't get to see him. Wasn't counting on that. Fuck.
Yeah, that's happened to me a few times here. Because I mean, where I live in Spain, Madrid is like 4 hours away, and Barcelona is about 7. So
where do you live?
I live outside of a city called Santander, which is in the north center of Spain.
Santander.
Yeah, it's. I guess you don't have the banks out on the west coast. I know they're on the east coast, but there's.
Oh no, those banks. Did they have them in Uruguay too?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. They're all over South America. Yeah, I'm sure I'll catch shit for this. The Spanish businessmen have continued to know how to plunder in the same countries. So the old habits die hard, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's happened to me. The one time I was lucky where we were smart enough to go was to see Dio. We got to see Dio on his last solo tour ever. It was like a year before he passed away. And to this day, we feel lucky that we did that, because there have been other opportunities where it's like, yeah, I don't feel like driving 3 hours for that show. And the next thing you know, the band breaks up or someone dies or whatever, and you're kicking yourself saying, shit, you had that chance.
That's a great singer to see live. I've never seen him live, but like that's, he was so good live.
Yeah, he was great. He was absolutely great. He'd my wife still says that he was the best performer on that festival. Kiss came on after him, and I'm a lifelong Kiss fan, so it was hard for me to choose, but that was definitely a great top bill for a festival.
Yeah, Dio and Kiss, Jesus.
Dio, Kiss, and then Saxon came on at 3:45 in the morning.
I mean, after Dio and Kiss, I don't care who's next. I mean, I'm done. I love Kiss. Kiss was one of my favorite bands of all time, too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Have you ever thought of taking Void Vator to South America or Europe?
Europe, definitely, because we have ties in Europe with the label and people we know. South America is a lot more complicated, and I know this for a fact because it's not like in the United States where you can just go to different cities. Everything's spread out. like you have your like there's a lot of rural areas. So like, let's say in Europe, for example, you play at the capital city, and then everyone is going to come to that show.
Mhm.
So it's not like you can drive 4 hours and play another show. You're done for that country. If you go
Right.
to Argentina and you go to Buenos Aires and you play Buenos Aires, and then people will come to see you. Maybe in Argentina you can get away with do a few more shows, but
Right.
it's a lot of flying, not a lot of
Yeah.
driving. Is more like flying shows. So it gets more expensive. You got to rent gear. It's more complicated.
Yeah.
A lot more complicated, and I don't think we're at a point where it will be too complicated.
Gotcha.
And we can, and we, I want to go to Europe first. I've been to South America. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing in Europe too is that a lot of bands have focused their tours on, England, Germany, and maybe Sweden. And that's, there are enough cities between all three of those countries that although the situations are similar to what you're saying with South America, you can get away with just, you can do a tour of Germany, which maybe you can play 8 cities. You can
Right.
play the UK. There's similar 6, 7, 8 cities that you can do in the UK, where similar to what you said about Argentina or maybe Brazil. But outside of that,
Yeah.
I know from a fact, I've had bands tell me, we're not playing Spain this time around because it costs too much to drive from Paris to Spain. And then at the time that I was interviewing this person, they had jacked up all the performance taxes. So the guy told me, he said, yeah, we're not, we're going to pay $700 in diesel. And then we're going to end up getting, zapped with taxes, and, we're probably not going to do well with merch. He said, yeah, we're not going. He told me flat out. He said Spain, Italy, and Greece made no money for them. And this is a relatively well-known band. So, yeah. And even Paris, he told me, he said, the only reason we're playing Paris is because it's kind of on the way between Germany and the UK. He said, if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't stop here either. So it's
Gotta get their shit together, man. It sounds like they're a mess.
Yeah, well,
I'm kidding.
The distances, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, you're driving
between like European countries. It's so tiny compared to South America. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but if you're, for example, this guy was telling me that they were booked in Madrid. Then they were booked in Germany, booked down in Madrid, and then they had to go back to Germany before going over to France. And he was telling me it's like 22 hours each way to, from Germany to Germany, so.
What do you have to do that for?
That's the way the routing agency set everything up. They had been fighting with them the entire time. And
well, see, then I'm right. They got to get their shit together.
That's some of that behind the scenes stuff that I'm sure you can appreciate, because I mean, when you guys are setting up all of these tours, I mean, I see you guys announce, on social media about trying to fill in dates, and it's kind of a connect the dots where if you guys can squeak in another date in between instead of driving, through the Southwest, if you can make shorter trips and just hit up a place in between, I mean, economically it makes more sense for you guys, but also, it's less wear and tear on you guys as well, doing the short.
I think that's the most important thing. It's just, you don't want to be driving 8 hours every day. It's exhausting. It's boring. I mean, you can only listen to so many songs, and then it's kind of like, oh, come on, let's get there already. Driving through the night, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes.
What would you say is on a constant rotation for you guys in the car? Or is there like any band that you need to throw in the I almost said throw in the tape deck. I'm showing my age here. What do you need to put on the radio to get you going in the car. Yeah.
For me personally.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty interesting. I actually started making Apple Music playlists.
Okay.
I have a few. I only have a few playlists, but this is the kind of stuff that gets me pumped when I'm driving. So I started this one playlist called Super Extreme 80s Workout Montage, and it's got stuff like No Easy Way Out, from the Rocky movie.
Okay.
This kind of stuff. Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins.
Right.
That kind of stuff. It puts me in a good mood. I have another one called Freedom Town, and I got Kiss, I got AC/DC, I got Rat, Turbo Negro, Van Halen, Judas Priest. I got Mothership in there. CC Top. It's funny, I see CC Top next to Mothership. What is that?
Yeah, that was of course. I turned everything off but Skype. That was someone calling me on Skype.
CC Top and Mothership, which I think is interesting because they're both from Texas, and I always thought that Mothership is kind of like a modern CC Top because they're three-piece, and I don't know, they have that southern flair to it.
Sure.
And they have some. I have a playlist with Spanish rock.
Oh, okay.
I have one band from Spain I know. It's Silencio. You know them?
Of course, I know them.
So I love that band from Spain. I got Argentinian bands like Catupecu Machu, and also Soda Stereo, stuff like that. Spanish rock. I can always put on the Ramones when I'm driving. That always works. That always gets me.
Right.
And I'm pretty basic, I guess.
Yeah. Edois is the, I think, only Spanish band to ever have a #1 album in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. So
Really?
they were huge back in the day. Unfortunately, your typical thing where they just couldn't stand each other anymore. I mean, they did reunion shows back in 2007, I think, but they've never done anything since. I mean,
What's interesting because
so much money.
I wouldn't care. Like, even if I hated my vocalist or my guitar player, if you're at that level, you don't have to see each other at all. Only when you're on stage, and then you just go on and do your own thing. Like, what's the big deal? Like, I wouldn't even care. I would do it anyway. But I say that from a distance. Maybe it's different. Who knows? There's some legal issues, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, but these guys, I mean, they have so much money that's why they don't play anymore together. It's not the same as a band needs to keep doing it. There's
it's kind of awesome.
Yeah. Well, you bring up Rat. I mean, somebody asked me the other day. They said, "Well, why do you think Stephen Pearcy's trying to get as many of the original members back together?" And one of the things that was said to me was, "Well, maybe it's for one last hurrah." I said, "Well, it's either that or the brand name Rat sells a lot more than the brand name Stephen Pearcy, regardless of who's in that band. But if you can get as many of the original guys back together again, I mean, you're talking about bigger tours. You're talking about a lot more money. So, I mean,
even though without his voice, Rat is not Rat. I mean, I'm sorry, like that voice is so particular.
Yeah, but Bobby went out and toured under the name Rat, and he was still getting people out at venues. So, I mean, that shows the power of an established brand.
Yeah, I agree.
The name is so big and so popular that at that level, a lot of people don't know until they show up to this show that they're not there. Shit with we're talking about Kiss, a lot of people don't even know that it's not the original four guys under the makeup. They just want to go for the experience and just check out the show,
At this point, I wouldn't care either. I'm like, looks like Ace, looks like Peter Chris. Peter Chris. It's Kiss. You're the Paul Stanley going crazy and Gene Simmons doing the thing and spitting fire,
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back to the touring situation. Now, we talked about your playlist. Is there anything that other people play in the van that drives you nuts?
That drives me nuts? Well, Eric only plays metal.
Okay.
And Eric needs heavy metal to drive, especially at night, because otherwise he can fall asleep. So that's his thing. He needs to blast metal really loud whenever he's driving.
Right.
So that's a little difficult when you're trying to sleep. But he drives more than anybody else. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, you can have that. I'll put some earplugs in or whatever, and you just go for it.
Right.
But no, I mean, they have very good taste in music. Like, they're not going to play anything. I'm probably the only weirdo that plays all this crazy stuff and South American rock bands and jazz and things that are not and like weird 80s synth pop and stuff like that. And they look at me like, what the fuck, dude? I get bored of listening to the same shit all the time. Like I love my heavy metal and my rock and roll, but you got to spice it up.
Sure.
But they never play anything that I'm like, oh no, get the fuck out of here. Or did they? I gotta feel like recently it happened when I'm like, no, what was it? I don't know. But they seem to say, if you ask them, they're gonna tell you that I don't like anything. They're like, I don't like anything, Gia. And I'm like, what do you mean? I don't like this. And I'm like, yeah, but you always say whenever we put something on, you're like, no. I don't know, man. I'm pretty open-minded, but apparently I hate a lot of music.
Well, it still seems that from what you described, you still got a wide variety going there. I don't think there's too many other people that I've interviewed that can claim to have Soda Stereo and Héroes del Silencio or jazz or stuff like that going mixed in with Ride the Lightning and stuff like that. So
yeah. And now my wife and I started getting into collecting vinyl again.
Right.
So one of the things that I like to do is I like to get albums that were recorded and mastered, with that in mind, from that era, like it's going to play on vinyl,
right?
Based technology, so it sounds different. Like if you listen to an album that is released now, and you put a turntable, it's got a different sound than something like, let's say, Van Halen 2. You put it, it's different. It's recorded on tape. It's recorded on tape. The mastering is different. It's kind of cool. So I've been buying a lot of jazz albums, like Django Reinhardt, Benny Goodman, and Joe Pass, stuff like that.
Right.
Because the kind of stuff that I like listening to. Of course, I have my Van Halen albums. Of course, I have Turbo Negro, ZZ Top, and stuff like that. But and then my wife's into like big band jazz and stuff like that. It's fun, and 50s music.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
definitely a lot of stuff going on there,
and a lot of movie scores, which is fun when you just put on a score and you walk around the house, and it gets a little weird.
Awesome.
It's fun. It's a different trip, like listening to song. You're listening to a whole score,
right?
That has a certain mood. It's cool.
So, that's an interesting point that Monty Pittman brought up to me years ago, where he mentioned that he likes writing as if he's writing an entire movie score, where you need to listen to the album beginning to end to catch all the different moods and and get the flow of everything. And he explained that he kind of felt that knowing that you could buy songs individually kind of bugged him because it broke up like the mood of the entire album.
It really does. And even if you do it now with any album that you like, it's different. It's a different experience. It's not necessarily worse, but there is something about putting an album and listening to it to end,
right.
And doing nothing else, like just sit there. It's just sit and listen. It's so different. The way you appreciate music, detail, nuance. It's not the same compared to doing a playlist like I do and listening to music in the car. I do think that listening to music and doing nothing but that, it's very important for just you appreciate it more.
Right, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's a different scenario, being able to sit down in front of a pair of speakers and just listening to an album, as opposed to being on the road where you just have to, you're just trying to, it's kind of like eating. It's not the same as eating a meal at home as it is to being on the road and just getting what you can get, kind of a deal.
That's a good analogy right there. Yeah. You're just consuming, to consume, but you're not really like.
Yeah. It's not the same as
notes,
Yeah, there you go. That's it. You're consuming notes as opposed to just savoring them.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you teach lessons as well?
Yeah. I have a handful of private students.
Okay. Do you the lessons that you do, are they in person? Are they online? Or are they a mix?
They're in person. I do online lessons with a few students because of COVID, and
right.
well, one of them is either not of age, so he cannot even make up his mind. It's not up to him whether he can come here or not.
Yeah.
So then I have another student, just doesn't want to do the in person until she's vaccinated, and I respect that. It's all good. But if I can do in person over Zoom, I do, because it's better. I mean, without a doubt.
Gotcha. How do you approach lessons? How much do you consider how you grew up learning how to play when it comes to teaching the students, or do you take things on a student by student basis?
The most important thing is I learn from my own mistakes. So I want to make sure that my students don't make the same mistakes that I did. And one of the big mistakes that I made, I think, was not playing songs enough. Like always trying to write and always like working on my skills. Of course, I learn songs. I'm not a psycho, but not enough. I feel like I should have. And then later on in life, I started learning other people's music more and more and more and more. And I mean, that's really the best way to learn. But I was at a point where I already studied classical guitar, and I've been around. I've been in bands. I play covers and stuff like that. But I tried to teach my students songs first. But I do not have a one size fit all, because they're all different, and that's the reason why I only have a handful of students. Gotcha. Because I want to know them. I want to know what they like. I want to know their skill level. I want personally. It's because I've been in a situation before, like working at a music school, where you have to teach a tons of people, and it's not ideal because you don't get to know the people well enough to know, how to approach the lesson. Everyone's different. Everyone needs different things. Everyone's different, man. Like you just gotta if you were to see the way I teach each student separately, you'd be like, this is insane. Like, it's a different approach. And of course, I have different ages, you know?
Right.
It's like I have an 8-year-old. It's not going to be the same with a 25-year-old, you know?
Sure. But that makes sense. I mean, with anything that you're trying to learn, everyone is completely different. And if you really get down to analyzing musicians, you know, when you see people say, oh, well, who's the greatest drummer of all time? Who's the greatest guitarist? It all comes down to your preference, because each one of those players is special, and as good as they are, they're really good at one thing or another. You know, you look at someone like an Eddie Van Halen or Stevie Ray Vaughan or a Randy Rhoads or a Dimebag Darrell. They're all ridiculously talented players, but none of them sounds exactly like the other.
Exactly. And they're all good at one thing specifically, you know? Like, they're good at, like, Eddie Van Halen is great at being Eddie Van Halen, and Stevie Ray Vaughan is great at being Stevie Ray Vaughan. If, like, me as a guitar teacher, like, I can play Stevie Ray Vaughan, I can play Van Halen, I can play Dimebag. You know what I mean? I don't know that Stevie Ray Vaughan could play Van Halen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing, because when you listen to Stevie Ray, you don't need to listen to it like for a split second, and you know it's him.
Right.
One of the things I try to do with my students is understand what they want and what kind of player they want to be, and I try to to kind of like focus our attention on getting to basically achieve what I think they're good at, you know what I mean? As opposed to trying to teach them everything, you know? Gotcha. It's like, if I have a student that's into jazz or like blues, we'll do that, you know? If I have a student that's to songwriting, then I'm going to show you songs that can help you with your songwriting, and we're going to go that way. I'm not going to show you how to shred, and I'm not going to give you like a million exercises because that's not what you want. You know, if I have a student that's into the technical aspect, they want to shred, you know what I mean? I'm not going to show them Nirvana songs. I'm gonna push the boundaries of and I'm gonna give them all the exercises and the things that they need to do to be able to shred. But some people are not interested in shredding, you know, they just want to play songs. If you want to play just songs, cool, that's fine too. You know, we'll do that.
Yeah, again, another food analogy. If you're looking to become an Italian chef, you don't really need to become an expert at making hamburgers or tacos. You know, it's just something different. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other, you know, because it comes down to preference. It's just that if you're trying to learn one discipline, as you're saying, if someone wants to be a singer-songwriter, being able to play arpeggios and, you know, sweeps may not be of any interest to them.
Yeah, and I think it's because you only have a certain amount of time, you know, to focus your energy. So if you are focused, let's say you want to be a songwriter and you're like doing arpeggios up and down, then you're not focusing on your songwriting. That's what you want to do. That's what's kind of like being a guitar instructor is a little bit problematic, because you, as an artist, because you need to know, like I need to know how to play pretty much anything. You know what I mean? Because I have students that are into jazz, I have students that are into blues, I have students that are into metal. Some of them are into, you know, whatever. I got to be able to do all of it, you know? And when I used to work at a music school, it was even crazier, because the students will come in and they had assignments, you know, so they would have to learn a specific song, and it could be anything, you know, it could be like Michael Jackson or whatever, man, like anything you can possibly imagine.
Right.
So of course, you know, I don't know all these songs. I don't know every single song under the sun, you know. So I will have to pick it up immediately and teach it. So I kind of developed an ability to pick up, you know, pretty much any, well, within reason, of course, but I can listen to something and figure out really fast. And I learned that kind of because I had to do it that way. That I used to work at. But at the same time, as an artist, you know, because you have to play all these different genres and you got to be good at everything, it kind of takes away from, you know, developing your own style.
Sure.
Because like what I said, you know what I mean? If like you're focusing your attention and energy on all these little things, you're not narrowing your focus on being great at this one specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Cool. Before I let you go, I want to just remind everyone that the new album, which is Great Fear Rising, comes out. It's the 23rd, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be available in all platforms starting this Friday.
Okay.
So you can check it out before you buy it, you know?
Okay.
And then, yeah, April 23rd is going to be available on Ripple Music. It's going to be available on our Bandcamp page, so people can buy directly from us as well. And yeah, check it out, man. Like when it comes out digitally this Friday, check it out because you're going to want to buy it. It does sound a little bit different on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
I have the vinyl here. It just sounds better, man. I don't know how else to say it. It just sounds better. It sounds better
Okay.
on vinyl.
Cool. And where should people go to follow you and Void Vator?
Me personally, they can go to Instagram, Lucas Kanopa at Instagram. I'm the only one with that name. I guess I have a special name. I don't know. Void Vator on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever else. You know, all the typical social media. I think we're more active on Facebook and Instagram than anything else, really.
Right. Okay.
But Instagram is probably the best one to know what we're up to because we update that with the stories and stuff like that. It's easier to just like put things out as they come.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I want to thank you for coming back for your yearly checkup.
Yeah, I gotta call my dentist.
There you go. Hopefully, we'll chat again in the future. I'm sure next time you guys are out promoting any sort of EP or any sort of album, Eric will reach out and I'll get a chance to talk to the two of you again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me again, dude. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you for coming back on.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Take it easy. All right. Awesome. Lucas from Void Vator. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Special early week edition of the Signals from Mars live stream. We will be live stream, not live scream. We'll be back on Friday. Undetermined guest so far. We'll see. I'll wrangle someone up. And we'll be back 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. in the UK. And for anyone in the CET, Continental European Time Zone, like myself, it is midnight Saturday. So, yeah, Friday going into Saturday. I have a hard time explaining that to Europeans for some reason. You say it's midnight Saturday. Oh, that's Saturday into Sunday? No, Friday into Saturday. So there you go. Anyway, thanks to everyone that watched this live and chimed in during the chat. Thanks to anyone that's watching this or listening to the audio podcast on the replay. And we will see you on Friday. Please join us. See ya. Oh.